Namaskar. Welcome to this episode of What Does This Data Say? I continue this episode from last week where I was talking about the delimitation of the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Last week I had briefly touched upon the political history of the state and how the National Conference and the Congress Party had ruled the state for most of the 75 years post-independence. Today I'll try to bring out the numbers behind the delimitation exercise and try to show you that delimitation was not necessary as on date the way it is being rushed through. Rather, the government should have waited for the next big delimitation which is coming up in the year 2026. Now, I don't think I need to cover what is delimitation. Delimitation is the act or process of fixing limits or boundaries of constituencies within our country based on a census. And census, is carried out every 10 years, 1951, 61, 71, and so on. Whenever delimitation is needed, the government constitutes a delimitation commission whose orders have the force of law. These are the guys who then carry out the delimitation, submit the report to the government, which then goes to the parliament, and if it is passed, then the boundaries are redrawn. Now, one more point I want to tell you about the delimitation or Commission of India before I get into the numbers of Jammu and Kashmir. The delimitation commissions have been set up previously as well in 1952 after the 1951 census, where 494 Lok Sabha seats were determined. Then again in 63 and 73, 2002, etc. Now, only thing I want to point out is that following the 84th Amendment to the Constitution in 2002, delimitation exercises were postponed after 2026. So the seats in the Lok Sabha and the Assembly today are based on the 1971 census. So today's 543 seats in the Lok Sabha and 4,123 seats in the state assemblies are all based on the 1971 population census. So here's a recap of what I told you last week. On 20th June 2018, the state was brought under governor's rule, which continued for 6 months, and thereafter, the president's rule was imposed in the state because the governor's rule could not continue beyond 6 months as per the constitution of Jammu and Kashmir. And the president's rule was later approved by the parliament. The state assembly, which was kept under suspended animation, was subsequently dissolved. On 5th August 2019, the Special Status Act, Article 370, was abrogated, and the state was, the boundaries were redrawn. Jammu and Kashmir became a union territory, and Ladakh became a separate union territory. With the assembly dissolved, the elections which were due to the state assembly in 2020 could obviously not happen. The state boundaries had to be redrawn. Therefore, the Jammu and Kashmir Representation of People's Act 1957, under which the elections were held in the state so far and the delimitations were carried out, was suspended and a new act was created. This act was called the Jammu and Kashmir Reorganization Act 2019. Now this gave powers to the government of India to set up a delimitation commission and then redraw the boundaries before the next election takes place. So to carry out the exercise in J&K in the aftermath of its special status revocation, a delimitation commission was set up on 6th March 2020. The commission is headed by retired Justice of Supreme Court Ranjana Prakash Desai. Now this delimitation commission has several members. It has 5 associate members who are Farooq Abdullah, Hasnain Masoodi, Akbar Loan from the National Conference, and Jitendra Singh and Jugal Kishore from the BJP. The chairperson, as I told you, is Justice Ranjana Desai. Chief Election Commissioner of India Sushil Chandra is a member. J&K Election Commission Chief K.K. Sharma and Chief Electoral Officer of the Union Territory Hitesh Kumar. So this makes up the commission. Now this commission had been constituted in 2020 and was given 1 year to give its report. However, due to the pandemic, the report was submitted, the final report was submitted in March 2022, put up for public comments for 1 week, and then it has been submitted to the government. Since delimitation has a lot to do with the geography of a state, I'll just remind you of one map. You guys must be very familiar with this map. The area under J&K is total is around 230,000 kilometers. Only about less than half of it is with India today. The remaining parts are either Pak occupied or the territory which was ceded to China by Pakistan, or the area which China has been occupying after the 62 war, which is the Aksai Chin area. So the area with India today is a little over 1 lakh square kilometers. Now J&K is divided into regions. There is a Kashmir region and a Jammu region and a Ladakh region. Kashmir division is 15,948 square kilometers. Jammu division is much bigger than Kashmir. It is 26,293 square kilometers, and Ladakh is the largest, little less than 60,000 kilometers. That makes the total of a little over 1 lakh square kilometers. Let me further zoom into the Jammu and Kashmir divisions. Now, the purple area here shown is the Kashmir division, and the blue area is the Jammu division, which is much larger. Kashmir division is mostly a valley. It is a flatter terrain, relatively flat terrain, and accessibility between these districts is fairly easy. Whereas Jammu, on the other hand, after crossing Jammu, the Pir Panjal range starts, and these are all high mountains, hilly terrain, and accessibility in these regions, it has always been an issue, especially for far off areas like Doda, Kishtwar, Poonch, Rajouri. In 2014, the elections for the assembly were held. At that time, there were 87 seats in the assembly, 46 from Kashmir region, 37 from Jammu, and 4 from Ladakh. But after 2018, when Ladakh was taken out, the number of seats came down to 83. So till 2018, there were 83 assembly seats. In 2022, it is proposed to raise these seats to 90, an increase of 7 seats. So now what I'll do is, I'll go and analyze those 83 seats and see whether the distribution follows the norms of a normal delimitation process. And was there any need to increase these seats to 90? So here is the population graph of Jammu and Kashmir from 1961 onward. In 1961, the population was 35.6 lakhs, and according to the 2011 census, the population of the state was 1 crore 25 lakhs. It is estimated to go up to around 1.5 crore in 2021. Now the seats, if you see, have been consistent all through. There were 73 in 61, and after 2001, there was a delimitation process which increased the seats to 83, and that have continued till 2080. So for last 70 years, increasing the number of legislative assembly seats was never a major issue, though from Jammu region some noises were made, but those claims don't really hold water. In 2002, some seats were increased in Jammu region, but thereafter, as it was decided that the next delimitation would happen after 2026, the state also decided to postpone all the delimitation processes. So this is how the distribution of seats between Jammu region and Kashmir regions happened. They started in 61 with Jammu region started with 31. One seat was added, which was the Mendar seat taken from the POK quota, and again the reorganization, delimitation happened, and the seats were increased. After the 2022 delimitation, Kashmir will get 47 seats and Jammu 43. So, was there any disparity between the two regions when it comes to looking at the representation of the population by a single seat? For instance, if UP today has 23 crore population and there are 403 seats, then each seat roughly represents 5.5 lakh people. So let's drill down and look at the representation of people in Jammu and Kashmir regions. Now this graph I have plotted for the two regions, Kashmir in blue and Jammu in red. In 1961, the population represented per seat in Kashmir was 51,600 and in Jammu 42,857, a difference of about 10 to 11,000. Now this difference of about 10,000 persons continued till the year 1991, after which there was a delimitation, seats were changed, and in the year 2001, after the 2001 census, the population represented per seat became equal in the two regions. Thereafter, the population growth in Kashmir continued at a faster pace than in Jammu. Though the seats remained the same, the difference again became a little over 25,000. Also, the population in Kashmir is more than that of Jammu region, so it is but natural that an MLA in Kashmir will represent more people than in Jammu. So this is not a striking difference for an electorate. Since I have introduced the parameter of population growth rate, I will show you the graph of J&K for the population growth. In this graph, I have shown the Kashmir region growth rate in blue, the Ladakh region growth rate in pink, Jammu region growth rate in red, and the entire state of J&K in yellow. So let's start with the Kashmir region. In 61, the growth rate of Kashmir was a little over 1%. It then went up to 2.5% in 71 and later peaked to over 2.5%, 2.75% in 2001 census. Thereafter, the growth rate has been declining. Jammu peaked much earlier. Jammu growth peaked in 71 and thereafter it has been continuously declining. Ladakh has a very small population and is rather inconsequential in these discussions. However, the population peaked in 2001 and now the growth rate is declining. Now the overall growth rate of the state is shown by this yellow line, which currently is around 2.25%. Now, when you extrapolate all these lines in the year 2035 or 240, all these will converge and become equal to the India growth rate, which would then be around 1%. By growth rate, I mean the annual growth rate. Just for completeness, here are the numbers for the Kashmir and Jammu region. As I said, in 71, Kashmir was a little over 1% and Jammu 0.76. And today, Jammu is around 2%, while Kashmir is 2.4%. Both growth rates are declining. Now, the second parameter I analyzed is the area represented by each seat in the two divisions. This parameter is also known as the seat density. I know you will not be able to see this table on your mobile, so I am going to read out some important data. Jammu division, the total square kilometer area is 26,293 square kilometers. In 2011, the area per seat was 711 square kilometers. Now, with the increase proposed in 2022, this area per seat or seat density will come down to 611 square kilometers. On the other hand, Kashmir Valley being a much smaller area, which is 15,948 square kilometers and has 46 seats, the area represented per seat in 2011 was 347. This will remain more or less same because only one seat is being added. The density will come down to 339 square kilometers. So just like the population, even the seat density is not being drastically changed. No political outcome is going to change because of seat density. So why this delimitation, and what other parameter could possibly change the political outcome of an election? Fortunately or unfortunately, and depending which side of the fence you are standing, it is going to be religion. So let me take you through the demographic data of the state and how it will affect the elections. This is the demographic data according to the 2011 census. The Muslim population in the state was 68.31%, Hindu population 28.44, and the other communities were in very small numbers. The total population in the state was around 1.25 crores, and it also includes data from Ladakh. Now in 2021 census, this demographic data is not going to change drastically because both the growth rates in Kashmir Valley, which is predominantly Muslim, and the Jammu region, which is predominantly Hindu, both growth rates are coming down. Now we will have a closer look at the demographic data of each region separately. I will start with Kashmir. This again is data from the 2011 census. Kashmir is 56.15% of the state population. It is 68,88,475 in 2011. The Muslim population was 96.4%, while the Hindu population in the Kashmir region was around 2.5%. Now these are the seats which were there till 2018, in which the 2014 election was held. There were 46 in number. In the 2022 delimitation, one seat has been added in Anantnag, Kashmir, and that too has a story that the regions added in Anantnag are from far away across the Pir Panjal range, which were earlier a part of Jammu division. Now Kashmir region is almost 100% Muslim dominated. So there is no question of any religious divide. Any election happens, the Muslims themselves will vote for that party. Secondly, adding one seat to the demography is not going to make any change in the political outcome of an election. So now left in the end is the Jammu region. Jammu region constitutes 43.85% of the state population. The Muslims in Jammu area are 68.8%, while the Hindus are 28.8%. Now, in 2014, there were 37 seats in Jammu division. Now that has been changed or is proposed to be changed to 43. These arrows show the constituencies or the district where the seat is going to be added. So we have one extra seat in Doda, Riyasi, Udhampur, Kathua, Samba and Poonch. Now with this delimitation, the assembly becomes 90 seats. So the halfway mark becomes 45, and anyone who comes in majority with 46 seats can form the government. Jammu region now gets 43 seats. So anyone who has dominated the Jammu region now has a possibility to form a government which earlier was not there. Now, while on this subject of demography of J&K, I'll show you one more interesting figure. Now, this figure has been used by many to create all sorts of numerals. If you look at this, this is the religious compositions of Hindus and Muslims in J&K from 1951 to 2011, and this is the curve of the Muslim. It looks like that they had been around 72% in 47, then they came down, and now again they are going up. So it appears that Muslims are increasing in J&K as a percentage. On the other hand, the Hindus, who were only 25% in 47, they peaked in 1981, and they are coming down. So it appears that Hindus in the state, the population of Hindus in the state is going down. But on the other hand, I have already showed you the growth rates, which is coming down. In fact, this is partially true, but this is not going to be there if you extrapolate it for the 2021 and then the years beyond. So the last map which I'll show you, and then you will understand the entire issue. Here is the election results of the 2014 assembly elections. Now this area which you see in orange is the Jammu region, and here mostly BJP has won the election. The Kashmir Valley is this part of the map where the election was predominantly won by the PDP and the National Conference. The blue area is the Ladakh area, where either one independent one or the Congress had won the seats. So here is the table of results for 2014. Kashmir, there were 46 seats. The PDP won 25, Jammu 37, and the BJP had won 25. Together they formed the government when Mufti Mohammad Saeed became the chief minister. So if you have missed the point, I will explain. If you look at this map and see the constituencies where BJP has won, the orange constituencies, the names are Udhampur, Kathua, Samba, Riyasi, and Kishtawar. Now, these are the districts or the constituencies where one seat each has been added. So, if elections were to happen today, BJP that time got 25, they will get many more seats, maybe close to majority mark. So, BJP in the next election stands a much better chance to form a government. If they again go with PDP, PDP would provide them the balanced number of seats from the valley. So this is the net objective of the current delimitation exercise. It is not the population, it is not the seat density, and it is not that there has been discrimination against the Jammu region, which there has been no discrimination when you look at the data. Otherwise, the country was to have a major delimitation exercise after 2026, and all this could have happened at that time. So that's the end of this episode of the delimitation of J&K. I hope you guys liked it. So I'll meet you again next week with some other interesting data. Till then, goodbye and namaskar.